Hey guys, so welcome back to the next video on this blown up jet ski. We're going to be taking apart the motor. Say 650 2-cylinder 96 Yamaha Waverunner 3. I did a compression test and this cylinder was reading like 70 psi, which isn't really that great, and this one was reading like 5. So yeah, something's definitely wrong inside the motor, because he said it was running with him out there one day and then all of a sudden just died. These head bolts are actually coming out with the 3/8 ratchet. I'm gonna say that a piston ring is completely worn out and there's gonna be some scoring on this cylinder. What do we have here? Okay, so the cylinder don't look too bad. The cylinder head. Ooh, yeah, there's something bad right there. All right, guys, I've done some looking around and stuff, and the only thing I could really find, and it's kind of hard for you to see, but there's like a lip of corrosion right there. Yeah, I can feel it in my fingernail. I don't know how that happened. I'm guessing it's just corrosion, because he probably ran this thing in salt water. But the odd thing is, I don't really see that much scoring. I mean, there might be a teeny bit right there, but none around. Flip you around this way. I mean, there's some like rust right here that if I hone it out, I could probably get rid of that and fix it. But this side here, the better one, looks very similar to the other cylinder. Just doesn't have that huge pocket of crap right there. Definitely rusty right there. Probably where it's been sitting a long time. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely hone this one out. So by the looks of it, everything's just in the top end. Hopefully a rod bearing isn't bad, because I'm just gonna say heck with that. Depending on the state I'm in and if I want to fix it or not. But it does look like this engine can be repairable. So just doing the visual inspection out there. Now, I don't know a whole ton about two-stroke engines, but I do know a decent bit. But the fact that there's no scoring really on the cylinder walls, either one, even with the one with low compression, there's just a little bit of corrosion and rust kind of build up. That tells me that the oil pump was probably working pretty good, because if the oil pump wasn't working, I'm guessing that the cylinder walls would have been all scored up from no oil. So hopefully with that news, that means that the rod bearings aren't bad and the rod bearings and the rotating assembly is fine. So guys, I'm sorry for the crappy camera position, but you know, this tripod I have, you can really put it nowhere, and I just got to balance it perfect. I'm surprised these bolts are coming off with a 3/8 ratchet. Usually you would need a cheater bar in order to get these things loose. The head bolts anyway, or any bolt on a motor for that matter. So I tried to remove the exhaust manifold, but it's almost impossible to get to the bottom bolts under there. I've tried U-joints and everything. But this exhaust acts like a big lever to get this thing loose. Oh, yeah, that piston is busted. There we go. So I found the culprit, guys. This piston is junk. That's right where that spot was I was telling you about. Yeah, that scored. I don't know what happened there. Maybe a ring caught one of the ports or something and it ripped it. This piston looks okay. Just probably need some new rings on it. All right, so we got the pistons out. Came out pretty easy, like they're supposed to, unlike this four-wheeler, that the wrist pin was stuck in the rod. All right, guys, so I got the cylinder out, and as you can see, I mean, the cylinders, look, they're in pretty good condition. They just need some rehoning. That right there is just a bunch of rust or whatever. That's obviously what the sleeve is, where that port is slightly smaller. On the lip right here, well, it's upside down, but it's very, very rough. Here's a little bit better look. I'll go through and just kind of clean these up with some sandpaper and make them flow a little bit better. This should be better than nothing. And I'm doing this before I hone it, so when I hone it, it's gonna take out any little defects so a ring don't catch it. Something else I'm gonna be doing is giving all this a good wash because it is very nasty, oily, and greasy. I think we're good to go. All right, guys, so what I'm doing is I was kind of making these holes a little bit bigger because there's this nut and a bolt that goes right here, and this was so wallowed out, it was super loose, and the whole thing would just move like that. So I'm drilling this out so I can put this nut that I stick on to replace the bushing in through it, and then put it back on there, and it's not going to shake and rattle about. That's definitely better. So guys, I just got done blowing out the coolant lines on this thing because there's two lines that go in the back right here. Dirt daubers love to get in them. So if you have a jet ski, especially a really old jet ski, or if you just bought one, be sure your coolant lines are free, because I don't really think it might have been the oil issue anymore. I think it could have been because it got overheated or something, causing that ring to, you know, probably swell up and grab and break, snatch the top of the piston. Could be oil, but nothing really looked like it got hot in there. And here's what I mean. You got your inlet going in here. You want to make sure that those are cleaned out, because you got that line going in there. There's a dirt dauber nest stopping that up, and there's another part right here that the dirt dauber nest was stopping that up. And the first time I couldn't get it with the air hose, and then I finally just plugged it up really tight and hit it, and I heard a huge dirt dauber nest come out of here. So yeah, just be cautious of that, because the last thing I want to do is blow the motor up over some dirt daubers. So what I'm doing now, guys, is I'm cleaning up the gasket surfaces, because you know you got to have a clean gasket before you put all this stuff back together, and it is really baked on here and it doesn't really want to come off. And I spent about maybe 30 minutes on the other one. Probably need to do a little bit more on it though. But I'm now on the cylinder. I got to do the exhaust port. So now I'm going around here and using the razor blade to get this gasket clean. Oh, look what just arrived. My top end rebuild kit. So I cleaned off the base around there and I put the new gasket on it. So now we're gonna install the pistons. So this kit I got was like $170 or so. I had another one that was like $230. The reason I got this one because A, it was cheaper and it looked pretty good, and it had the Molly side pistons, which I personally prefer. So here's the stock piston, and here is the new piston. You can tell the pin is off-centered a little bit. This is the major side, this is the minor side. You can tell because this side's thicker and this side's shorter, and the engine rotates this way. It basically rides up on the minor side, and then when it fires, it goes down on the major side. So this is the second ring, and this is the first ring. This ring always goes on top, and there's little notches right here. On a two-stroke piston, you got pins right here, and that's to make sure that these rings go correlate with these pins right here. On a four-stroke piston, it doesn't matter. You can spin them around either way, but on a two-stroke piston, you have to have them right here because if the edge of this ring is open on like a port or something, it could catch and it could rip your ring off. On the piston right here that blew up, as you can see, the pin right here is still intact, but it caught right here. I mean, I really don't know the full cause of this failure. I think it was lack of oil pressure or oil, but if you know, let me know in the comments what you think happened. So obviously the piston rings, if you see any lettering or numbering or anything, that always goes up. And on a two-stroke, you can be certain because the slants and the rings like this go with the pin on here. So how I usually install this is I line the gap up with this, and you just want to spread them out just enough to go over the piston. Try to minimize it stretching. They make a special tool for this, but I've always just done it by hand. And there you can see, lines up with that little gap right there. All right, so right now the engine kind of looks like those old school steam engines back in the 20th century. So now we gotta install this bearing. So I'm using a 4-stroke oil, just I have as assembly lube. I mean, it'll be fine. And of course the wind's gonna be blowing, and it's probably gonna blow some freaking stick in the bottom end or something and make this project be like 3 times as long as it should be. So if you look on the piston, you got an arrow. The arrow always points toward the exhaust, and F for forward to go in the front of the motor. I already put the clip in on this side because these clips are kind of a pain to install sometimes. Boom. Now for the fun part, getting this circlip in. I'm just gonna turn y'all off for that. All right, so it wasn't as frustrating as I thought. Now I'm just spinning the opening around to this side. That's just something I always like to do, and I think it's something you should do. And anytime you're putting one of these rings on or anything like that, put some kind of towel down there, because I guarantee you it will fall in the motor, and it's gonna make you have the most fun time of your life. I didn't have that happen with a pin, but it happened on the CB750 I was working on. I tried to tighten the head bolt and it went right down the bottom. Luckily the motor was out and I was able to spin it around and finally get that thing out of there. I was lucky on that, but yeah, always put something right there. All right, so you get the gist of that. Now I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Boom. So guys, before we install the cylinder, we have to install the exhaust manifold on this cylinder, because the 4 bottom bolts right here, you cannot get to in the jet ski when the cylinder is installed. So before we install these bolts, we're gonna add a little bit of anti-seize so that way they won't like corrode and weld themselves in there. All right, so we got all the bolts in there, and you can really see it is like impossible to get to those bolts in the jet ski, especially that one. Boom. All right, so this is really gonna be fun, especially trying to compress the piston rings and get them in right while trying to do this, because this thing weighs like 20 pounds. Holy crap. All right, guys, so I'm gonna try to get this thing started in here because I'm gonna be wasting a load of film trying to figure it out. All right, guys, so I got it started on the other one. It took a little bit. I just wanted to make sure those rings were seated in between the pins because that would be bad. The second one isn't. Okay, there it goes, there it goes. Yeah, these jet skis are not really the most fun thing to work on, as I found out. You know, you can't see it. You know, you can't get any leverage on it, lift it up. And then it won't go, and all of a sudden it'll jump and then break something. And then you gotta take it all back apart again. Why is that one not wanting to go? Come on. This is why, guys, I don't film this stuff. Because it looks all great, you know, on video, but I don't know why that's not going down. But you always got crap like this. All right, so I'm just gonna cut to it be done. All right, so I think we finally got it. I sure hope it is, because it's about impossible. Of course, you know, I'm gonna have crappy camera angles and crap. Why is that not going in there? All right, guys, it is on there, and I sure hope those rings are in the right position. I have to edit a lot of cussing and swearing out because you guys some of you guys have no idea how that was. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. And I don't hear any weird noises or anything, so I'm hoping that this is going to be good. So we got our head gasket, and I'm assuming it goes on this way. There's no dowel pins for this head because it's not like there's a camshaft in there, which we might put a hydraulic cam in this with a camshaft clutch, so that way this thing can rev even higher. We'll do that in the future. There we go. I can feel some pressure now. So what I'm going to be doing now, guys, is you see this auto oil mixer? I think that's probably one of the culprits that causes engine failure. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to take it out and put a plug in it and bypass it and mix it 40 or 50 to 1 in here. So we got it disconnected from the line, and now this thing should just come out of here. See, this thing, it basically pumps oil, and it pumps oil out through here and drips through the tube of the carburetor. So this little thing, the old gasket's already on there. I'm just gonna leave that on there. It's just gonna fit right in there, and then I'll bolt it up. So now what I'm doing is putting in this hose kit, because apparently they don't come with them from the factory. And this is the kit that allows you to connect the hose to the engine and run it. All right, so we gotta get this clamp installed. Boom. Now let's get this muffler slash tune pipe thing on there. All right, so we got the old two-stroke mixed up, and I want to try to get this engine running before the sun goes down. And it's like completely dark because it's almost like 8 o'clock right now. So I'm just gonna leave that on there. 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 I'm just gonna leave that on there I'm gonna switch it to reserve just so it gets all the fuel cranking. Alright guys, so I checked for spark and we got spark. It's got some extra fuel in this little RC car nitro fuel bottle. So I'm pour some gas down the carburetor and see if it'll fire off that way. It actually started. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. We'll try to give it some gas while it's running too. I blew out all the fuel lines and they were pretty clear. So that'll about do it for this video. This video has been long enough. Carburetor's definitely got to come back off. Yes, I did clean it, but I think the diaphragms, especially in the fuel pump, are really worn out. So I just ordered a rebuild kit on eBay. If any of you guys got any other information, let me know in the comments. I'll be glad to read them. So I'll see you then.